free to be whoever you want to be. Feel free to dance, feel free to sing, just feel free. Feels like the world is...
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Two-Tone Talk by God Pod. Right here live, episode 88. It is May the 8th, 2024, a Wednesday afternoon. I don't ever do Wednesday episodes, but had a lot on my mind today to talk about with the Tennessee Titans. Some news dropped, the latest news in what has been an unbelievably eventful offseason so far for the Tennessee Titans. It is the signing of Tyler Boyd, who has been with the Cincinnati Bengals. He has signed with the Tennessee Titans, $4.5 million, 1-year deal. He will be the wide receiver 3 behind Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins. And we got a lot to talk about. This has been an unbelievably eventful offseason. Of course, we had the draft just a couple of weeks ago. And then we've had free agency. We've got a new coach. We've got a new regime. It's just a wild time in Tennessee Titans world, and apparently there are many in the media who could not care less, and that's fine. We're going to talk about them here in a second, but let's talk about Tyler Boyd, a guy who, you might look at his stats, last year and say, well, why are Titans fans excited about getting this guy? Well, you got to keep in mind, he's going to be wide receiver 3, okay? Wide receiver 3. He's not coming in here to be wide receiver 1. He's coming in here to be wide receiver 3. Like I said, behind Ridley and Hopkins. And what you need from a guy like that is exactly kind of what the Bengals have gotten out of him the last few years. 700, 800 yards, a few touchdowns over the course of a season. That's pretty much what you need from a wide receiver 3 in the position that Tyler Boyd is going to be in. So we knew the Titans were talking to some guys. Zay Jones was a guy that they brought in, but Tyler Boyd was the guy that stood out to me. Ties to Brian Callahan, played under Brian Callahan, and this was a guy that I was looking at way back when, even I think before we even signed Calvin Ridley. I was like, I would not be surprised if Tyler Boyd ends up with the Titans. And Tyler Boyd is a really quality wide receiver 3, and we got to talk about this offseason as a whole and the signings that have been made. Obviously, Calvin Ridley was a big one. But did you forget about L'Jarius Sneed? The trade for L'Jarius Sneed, he's coming to town, okay? Lloyd Cushenberry sealing up that center position. Tony Pollard coming in to play running back alongside Tyjae Spears. You can't forget about guys like Chidobe Awuzie. I'm going to get his name right one of these days. Been a lot of pickups. The Titans have been incredibly busy. We knew they had a ton of cap space, and then you bring in a new coach, new regime, new all of that. Tyler Boyd, the latest addition, and I like it. Think about with me, Titans fans, how far just the wide receiver group has come from the last couple of years to where we are now. We have seen, this is telling to me, we have seen a guy like Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, and God bless Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, all right? God bless the guy. There's a place for him on the team, okay? He's a hard worker, plays hard, but we have had him out there at least wide receiver 2, right? We have had him out there on many occasions at wide receiver 2 and sometimes even wide receiver 1. To put it in context, he's probably going to be like wide receiver 5. That ought to tell you. You want to know why? Big part of the reason why the Titans have had the type of seasons they've had these last 2 seasons. Because God bless Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. I am not saying there is not a place for him on the roster somewhere. I'm not saying he doesn't belong on the roster. but you've been trying to trot this guy out there as one of your top two guys, and he is a bottom of the depth chart guy who can play special teams, and if some guys get hurt, he can come in and be a passable wide receiver. We've been trying to trot him out there as one of our top two. Now he's going to be the fifth guy down the line. That should put it in context. Think about where we were. We had, was it just last year, not the season that just ended a few months ago, but the year before that, Treylon Burks, Robert Woods, Nick Westbrook-Ikine. That was your top three wide receivers. Treylon Burks, Robert Woods, Nick Westbrook-Ikine. So forgive me if I might have to have a little time of celebration for the fact that it's going to be Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, and Tyler Boyd. That's a heck of an improvement. Let's go to last season where it was DeAndre Hopkins, Treylon Burks, Nick Westbrook-Ikine. Still a definite toward the bottom of the league in terms of wide receiving groups. And I say that with all due respect to DeAndre Hopkins, who had a really good year. But outside of him, nothing. And you're going to come back this year with Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, and Tyler Boyd. Forgive me, I'm excited about that. After the crap that I've had to watch, after the crap that we've had to watch. I've talked about it so many times on this podcast. I could explode. How many times have we trotted a guy out there who we all knew this guy is not talented enough to be in this position, and they just put him out there anyway? No more. Do you remember when the Titans fired Mike Vrabel? And I nothing against Vrabel at all, but man, the media just had a field day with the Titans. Oh my gosh. This Titans, they're idiots. Mike Vrabel's great. They're going to be lost without him. We were lost with him. Our number 2 wide receiver is a guy that is now going to be a number 5 wide receiver. Because Vrabel loved him. And that kind of stuff was happening in different position groups all over the team. Not just wide receivers. And you want to talk about position groups that have improved? Let's look at the secondary. Good Lord, who were the starters last year? Of course, Roger McCreary, who's going to be back, but I mean, my goodness, you had Eric Garror, God bless him, did the best he could, but again, another case of a guy who's not ready to be in that position, who has been thrust into that position. We had McCreary and Garror, and I don't even remember who the other corner was. Oh, Fulton, the Fulton County Jail. And so when I look up and I now see that it's Sneed, McCreary, Awuzie, you have to forgive me. I get a little excited when I see how much the wide receiver room and the secondary room have improved. And that leads me to this point right here. To listen to the national media talk about the AFC South, to listen to them talk about the Titans. And listen, I'm fully aware that there was my dryer going off, if you heard that. I'm fully aware that the Houston Texans are probably going to be good, okay? I understand that a lot of people are going to be picking the Houston Texans to take the division. After the rookie year CJ Stroud had, I understand that. I understand they got Stephon Diggs. They improved their defense greatly. A lot of their receivers they had, like Nico Collins, showed a ton of promise. Like, I understand the Texans are going to be tough. I'm not naive to that, and I'm not going to, pretend that that's not happening just because I'm a Titans fan. Okay. I'm also not going to pretend that there isn't something intriguing about our friends, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Listen, I think Trevor Lawrence really stunk last year for the most part, but we've seen there's potential for him to come out and be very good. The Colts, I don't know. I mean, Anthony Richardson is an unknown. He's played in 3 games, which again takes me back to the national media who acts like it's obvious that Tennessee's not going to be any good. Like they don't even entertain the thought that Tennessee could potentially be any good. And I'll tell you this, you've got Colin Cowherd, who just, I mean, literally when talking about the AFC South, his direct quote was, Tennessee stinks, and that's all he could say about Tennessee. Just gloss right over them. Let's talk about these other 3 teams. Tennessee stinks, Colin Cowherd said. And then today, after the signing of Tyler Boyd, Colin Cowherd says, the Titans have a top 6 wide receiver room in the NFL. Okay, so which one is it, Colin? Which one is it? Do we stink or do we have it? Because also, in addition to having what might very well be a top 6 wide receiver room in the NFL, got one of the top secondary rooms too. We didn't have a top secondary room a couple of months ago, but we do now. How could you possibly just not even account for that? I have said this on the Two Tone Talk Twitter the last few weeks. I've said it a couple times, and I will echo it here. If, let's say the Colts. Let's go with our friends the Colts. If the Indianapolis Colts, because we know the media has a freaking love affair with the Colts. They want the Colts to be bad, they wanted the Colts to be good so bad that they can't stand it. They want Indianapolis to be good. I mean, how many times did we hear that Phillip Rivers was going to be the savior of the Colts? Matt Ryan was going to be the savior of the Colts. Carson Wentz was going to be the savior of the Colts. They want the Colts to be good. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about Indianapolis, but everybody in the media is obsessed with the Colts. They want them to be good so bad. So let's say the Colts had the exact same offseason that the Titans have had. Let's say the Colts went out and signed Tony Pollard and Lloyd Cushenberry and traded for L'Jarius Sneed and signed Calvin Ridley and signed 800 pounds worth of linemen, drafted 800 pounds worth of linemen in the first 2 rounds. Let's say that the Colts signed Tyler Boyd. Let's say that the Colts had, made all of these signings that the Titans have made as like a Awuzie and like that on the defense. The media would be drooling. It'd be like, oh my God, the Colts have had an amazing offseason. Oh, the Colts are going to, the Colts might very well give the Texans a run for their money. That's what they'd be saying. If the Colts had the exact same offseason that the Titans have had, Nick Wright, Colin Cowherd, Skip Bayless, Stephen A., all of them would be sitting around going like, gosh, the Colts are on Super Bowl. And while I understand that people have their reservations about Will Levis, and I think that's what it's all about. I think for a lot of people, that's what it's about. Do you believe in Will Levis or not? And I know, there are a lot of Titans fans who do. They are ready to ride with Will Levis. And listen, I like Will. I think Will showed a lot of potential his rookie season. I think of the Falcons game, his debut. I think of the Miami game on Monday night. I think of one game that people don't talk about enough, Will's second start ever at Pittsburgh on the road on a Thursday night with 3 days to prepare after his big debut. And I thought he played well on the road at Pittsburgh. Thought he played really well. So you've got a bunch of promise from Will Levis. But I also understand that a lot of the media looks at Will Levis and they're like, man, I don't know. I don't know if I can buy into that guy right now. Hey, that's fine. We're all entitled to our own opinion. But it's hard for me to take you seriously when in the same breath as saying, I just can't believe in Will Levis, people are absolutely falling all over themselves to talk about how great Anthony Richardson's going to be. And I'm not here to make light of Anthony Richardson's injury. I hate that he got hurt and had to miss pretty much the whole year. But in any event, the kid has played in 3 games. 3. Now, in those 3 games, he showed some promise too. But I am seeing Twitter and all of these places say, Anthony Richardson, there is a belief that he will be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Based on what? Based on what? Hopes and dreams? Based on what? Wishing upon a star? Listen, he's a good kid. And is there potential? Sure. But why are we just sitting around pretending that he's a proven commodity? Why are we just sitting around pretending that he had the year that CJ Stroud had? I get it with Stroud. Stroud pretty much played the whole year and was sensational. Took his team to the playoffs, won the division his rookie year. I get the hype with CJ Stroud. But with Anthony Richardson, and to be fair, with Trevor Lawrence, because like I said, I thought Trevor Lawrence stunk for the most part. We have let Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars so off the hook for what they did last season. Can we revisit it just for laughs and giggles? Massive lead in the division. 8-3, I believe. And you finish 9-8. All you had to do is beat the lowly Tennessee Titans in the last game of the year, whatever team that was that we fielded on the last game of the season. Half the guys I didn't even know their names. All you had to do was beat them with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. All you had to do was beat a team that fired their head coach 2 days later, and you couldn't even do that. You lost, what was it, 6 of your last 7 games. And let's think about the stinkers that they had against, I believe it was Tampa Bay, who just ran them off the field. Let's think about some of just the awful performances that they put together against Cleveland and Cincinnati. First home game in prime time since God only knows when, since Noah put animals on the ark, and they lose to Jake Browning, by the way. So we've let the Jaguars off the hook, but yet it's as though none of that ever happened. The Big Bird looking guy, Nick Wright, and all the others, they are still sitting around just pretending as though none of that happened. Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars, oh, this is going to be an exciting division. We've got the Texans, and then we've got the Colts with a quarterback who's played in 3 games, and the Jaguars with a quarterback who looks like the chick from Glee, and lost 6 of their last 7 to blow a huge division lead and miss the playoffs. Like, and we're just pretending that means that, like, we're still riding that whole Trevor Lawrence thing. Like, if Trevor Lawrence keeps playing the way he's playing, it ain't too long before the Jaguars got to go a new direction. You can't pay that guy a bunch of money with the way he's been playing. He had him a nice little run last year when they went to the playoffs, when the Titans fell apart and let him come back and take the division, and then the Chargers fell apart and let him make the biggest comeback in the history of the NFL playoffs. Yeah, that was fun. That was a fun little time for him. But are we going to just gloss over what happened most recently? I understand these people who say, I can't believe in Will Levis. I can't believe in Will Levis. I just can't buy in. Okay. Again, it's subjective. You have your opinion. But I need to know, what did you see from Anthony Richardson that you did not also see from Will Levis? Anthony Richardson played in 3 games. 3. We don't even know if the guy can stay healthy. We don't even know if the guy can stay on the field. And we're just acting like this guy is going to be the next Montana. Based on nothing. So it's too far-fetched to dare believe in Will Levis, but then in the same breath, we're going to champion the cause of Anthony Richardson and Trevor Lawrence, who stunk like a freaking booty hole last year. We're going to champion the cause of those guys, but Will Levis is just too far-fetched. We just can't get on board with that. Can't take you seriously. I can't take you seriously. And so with that being said, and also as Luke said in the chat, Luke, who said Anthony Richardson didn't do crap in Florida. Do you remember Anthony Richardson coming into that draft, last year's draft, where him and Stroud and all them and Levis, everybody got drafted? Anthony Richardson wasn't even a talking point until randomly one day it was like, oh, Anthony Richardson is going to be a top 5 pick. Like, nobody even talking about the guy. And then out of nowhere, it was like, oh, yeah, Anthony Richardson's going to be in the top 5 draft pick. It's like, where did this guy even come from? Like, we're acting like this guy just came floating down from the heavens. So with all that being said, the question is, what is the ceiling as of May the 8th? As of May the 8th, 2024, what is the ceiling for this team? Well, unlike other places, I refuse to not acknowledge the fact that picking up Calvin Ridley, the top wide receiver available in free agency, okay, that matters. Doing that matters. Making a big trade for L'Jarius Sneed, one of the best corners in the game, that matters. When you do something like that, that matters. Upgrading the center position from Aaron Brewer to Lloyd Cushenberry, that matters. Drafting 800 pounds worth of linemen with your first 2 draft picks matters when you desperately need it on both sides. That matters. Okay. Picking up Awuzie as the other corner and not having to rely on Fulton or Guerra or somebody else who doesn't even belong out there. Okay, that matters. Improving your secondary that much matters. Okay. Bringing in Tyler Boyd to be wide receiver 3 because you're not satisfied with just having to rely on Treylon Burks again. Bringing in Tyler Boyd to be wide receiver 3 matters. It matters. Putting all of this help around Will Levis to put him in a position to succeed matters. They may pretend it doesn't, but it matters. When your roster improves to the point that the Titans has, when your wide receiver room, your secondary, when those position groups improve, and let's just go ahead and say the offensive line. I mean, just the addition of Bill Callahan as the offensive line coach, that matters. That matters. The offensive scheme change with Brian Callahan coming in matters. Having a defensive coordinator like Denard Wilson matters. It matters. It's not just irrelevant. It's not something that doesn't matter just because it happened in Nashville. It matters. When you improve the roster and you improve the coaching staff, it matters. Okay. So yeah, the ceiling has raised a little bit, in my opinion. A couple of months ago, yeah, the Titans were an afterthought, as they should have been after the last couple of years. But with these moves that have been made, I don't know how you don't acknowledge it, because it matters. I don't know how you don't acknowledge that Trevor Lawrence stunk last year. It matters. I don't know how you don't acknowledge that Anthony Richardson has barely gotten any playing time in the NFL. Hate that he got hurt, but in any event, he's not gotten any playing time in actual NFL games except for 3 games. That matters. It matters. And it all comes down to will, okay? Where there's a will, right? It all comes down to Levis. Whether you believe in him or not, he's going to have his chance, because I'm looking at Will Levis. I'm saying, all right, dude, you got more than enough. All right? You got more than enough. You got a coach who has worked with Stafford and Peyton and all of these others, okay? You got a new offensive scheme that's going to be more suited to what you do. You got a better offensive line coached by one of the greatest offensive line coaches of all time. Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, and Tyler Boyd, that should be enough, buddy. Chigo Okonkwo, that should be enough. Tajay Spears, Tony Pollard in the backfield with you, that should be enough. J.C. Latham is as big as my house, that should be enough. Lloyd Cushenberry instead of Aaron Brewer, that should be enough. A secondary that is going to be one of the top secondary groups in the NFL when they were one of the worst last year, that should be enough. That should be enough for you to have some success, brother. And if you don't, it is on you. And that's why I like these moves the Titans have made, because we don't want to have to wonder. Is it because after last year, Yeah, there were some times when Levis wasn't, didn't exactly make some good throws or do some good things, but also he was playing behind one of the worst offensive lines in the league. And yeah, you have to account for that. He had no weapons outside of DeAndre Hopkins, and you have to account for that. So let's erase all doubt. No doubt. Let's get the best weapons we can get. Let's get the best line we can get. Let's get the best coaches we can get. Let's get the best defense we can get. And the spotlight is now on you. You're either going to be the guy or you're not. And if you're not, we'll go out next offseason. We'll get somebody else. But this is your chance. This is your chance. Better protection, much better weapons. This is your chance. And so I think this team is going to live and die as Will Levis takes them. If Will Levis is good, like he was against Atlanta, like he was against Miami, like he was against Pittsburgh, if you get that guy, hey, this team could be pretty dangerous. If you get that Will Levis that you got against Atlanta, if you get that Will Levis on that Monday night game from Miami that scored 2 touchdowns in less than 3 minutes to lead them back to a win and was going nuts on the sideline, chest bumping people, looking like a psychopath, if you get that Will Levis, okay, we're in business. If you get that Will Levis, we're in business. But if you get, the Will Levis that just can't quite figure it out, if you get a Will Levis that is making ill-advised throws over the middle, getting picked off, if you get the Will Levis who taps his feet in the pocket, maybe, does any of those things that young quarterbacks do, if he's not good, they may not be good. You might be looking at Mason Rudolph coming in to play quarterback. But in any event, it's going to be on him. I think the team's going to go as he takes them. And I have reason to believe that he can do some good things because I watched it. Will Levis ain't a bad quarterback, man. I liked a lot of what I saw from him. So with Callahan and this new offense, it's all living and dying on Will Levis as of right now. Now, there's still some positions of need. Safety, we got to figure out another safety. And we got the money to do it. Obviously, the 2 names that have been thrown out there are Justin Simmons and Marcus May. I think either of those would be a nice addition. I would rather Simmons, but I think that's most people's opinion. I think if given a choice, yeah, I'd rather have Justin Simmons. But at the same time, I realize that somebody's going to want to pay Justin Simmons a lot of money, and I don't know if the Titans are going to be able to match it. So I'd be fine with Marcus May, but I'd be really fine with Justin Simmons. Also, edge rush is another big need that I'd be interested in. I said on Twitter, and a lot of people jumped on me, I'm not opposed to having a little reunion with Bud Dupree. Not opposed. You want to know why? Because this would not be the same situation that he was in. We paid him way too much to come in the first time. Okay. We paid him way too much to come in and be hurt a lot. But now you're talking about a position where he wouldn't be making nearly that much money. We wouldn't be giving up so much money to get him, and he wouldn't be in there. I mean, he would be a rotational guy instead of a guy that we're majorly depending on. So I'm not opposed to Bud Dupree, but there are other guys out there as well. Safety, edge rush, those are positions of need. And I'll tell you another position that not a lot of people are talking about, and that's tight end. Chig Okonkwo, he deserves another shot to be tight end 1, but, Josh Wiley, big guy, but was hurt a lot last year. We saw a couple of good things from him. Who knows where we stand with him, but I think, there's going to be some other tight ends brought in, maybe not some big names, but some other tight ends brought in to create some competition there, if you can go by anything that Rand says, which I believe he can. Also, the rest of the offensive line, really the right side, because I assume right now you're looking at Latham at left tackle, Skoronski at left guard, Cushenberry at center, and then you've got right guard and right tackle. They could still make a veteran signing to bring in a right tackle, but they also could, look at some guys they have. With Bill Callahan coaching, the options are endless. Who knows what you could get from a guy like Dylan Radins or Nicholas Petit-Frere after, working with Bill Callahan. It's worth looking at. So, the offseason's not over. We got the rest of the summer to, figure out this stuff with safety. I think safety is the biggest need, but safety, edge depth, maybe tight end, the right side of the offensive line, but it is coming together. And this roster is in a much better place than it was a couple of months ago. It's pretty miraculous, really, to think about where this roster was when the season ended and to think about, like, can you imagine if someone had told you when the season ended that in just a few months' time, Calvin Ridley, L'Jarius Sneed, Chidobe Awuzie, and 800 pounds worth of linemen in the first two rounds, if somebody had told you that Tyler Boyd and all those guys were going to be Titans, you would have gotten excited. So, also linebacker, inside linebacker, Cedric Gray, 4th round pick. I loved the pick. I think Cedric Gray could be a major contributor, but he is going to be a rookie, and I'd hate to have to rely on a rookie to be the main guy. Kenneth Murray they picked up, who knows? And again, who knows about Gibby either, Dr. Gibby. So some stuff on defense that still needs to be straightened out. But as of May 8th, 2024, they're cooking. They're really, I mean, I said the other day, I can't recall from one season to the next where a Tennessee Titans team was going to look this much different. I mean, there are some guys, but not a lot of guys that you can look at and say, oh, they're coming back. I mean, Jeff, Harold Landry, Amani Hooker, Raj McCreary, Arden Key is back. D-Hop's back. Offensive line, I'm not sure. Tajay's back. Will's back. But, I mean, it's a handful of guys as of right now that are going to be returning starters. But, I mean, you're going to have new faces all over the field, new faces all over the sideline, and it baffles me that people in the national media act like the Titans are somehow worse off for that. I saw a video that my dad, Taylor Lewan, put out yesterday on Twitter. He said, this ain't the same Titans. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Lewan said, this ain't the same Titans. This ain't the same Titans that was just going to run the ball and be physical and try to beat you 13-10. And I watched that and I said, good. Good. I'm sick of those Titans. Sick of it. I don't know about you, but when September rolls around, I want to know that I'm not going to watch the Titans come out here and kick 8 field goals, try to beat a team 15-12. I want to know that, I'm going to watch a team that's going to move the ball down the field, have weapons all over the place, and a quarterback who's not afraid to air it out, and a line that can freaking protect them. That's what I want to know. I refuse to listen to anybody in the national media who acts like the Titans have somehow taken a step back by taking a step forward. I said this after Mike Vrabel was fired. If the Titans were so great with Mike Vrabel, if he was such a great coach and the Titans were so great with him, then why didn't anybody in the media even care that the Titans existed? They didn't care. That's how good the Titans were with Mike Vrabel. Nobody even cared that the Titans existed. And nobody was going to predict them to be successful at all this upcoming season as things were. But as things are now, again, I don't know how you don't acknowledge additions like Calvin Ridley, L'Jarius Sneed, Tyler Boyd, Awuzie. I don't know how you don't acknowledge that. I don't know how you just gloss over it. I don't know how you gloss over that Trevor Lawrence stunk last year. I don't know how you gloss over that Anthony Richardson has barely any in-game experience in the league. And I also start to wonder, as good as Houston's roster is, and as scared as I am of them, I'm starting to wonder, is it even possible for C.J. Stroud to live up to these expectations now? Because they're talking about him as if Jesus Christ is about to walk out on the field and take snaps for Houston. I mean, the dang Messiah is about to come out here and play quarterback. That's what they're acting like. Is it even possible? And also, stir the pot a little bit. I'm not convinced, because they pretty much got Stephon Diggs as a 1-year rental in Houston. Far be it from Stephon Diggs to ever cause drama Far be it from Stephon Diggs to ever pitch a fit on the sidelines. I'm not convinced there ain't going to be trouble in paradise by like week 7 in Houston. But we got a ways to go. It's only May. I'm excited about the direction, and I might do an episode in a week because the schedule release. I don't know if you guys saw this. The schedule release is next Wednesday, a week from today. I don't know if it'll be during the day, during the night, whatever. But the schedule release, we're going to know who the Titans are playing and when. That excites me. I'm ready to break down that schedule, and we will on this podcast whenever it comes out. As for me, I'm going to go mow my yard right now because it desperately needs to be mowed. Thank you guys for joining me on the Two Tone Talk podcast. You guys are amazing. Don't forget to sub to the YouTube channel. I would love to be at 1,000 subs by the time the season gets here, and so I need your help with that. Thank you for listening. Wherever you listen, go follow two-tone_podcast on Twitter. God bless you. Tighten up. Bye, everybody.
Whoever you want to be, feel free to dance, feel free to sing, just feel free. Feels like the world is picking on ya, feels like it's picking on me, but trying to please